Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Transylvaniacs, the unending, immortal quest of two good friends to watch as many Dracula adaptations as we possibly can.
Every episode, we try and watch every adaptation of Dracula, from Dracula A to Dracula Z to Dracula 2000.
Oh, incredible. And today we have a very special guest episode, which we're excited about. We always love doing guest episodes. So I'm going to introduce today's guest, who is stand-up comedian, comic illustrator, artist extraordinaire, genuine Dracula nerd, all-around cool cat, Teresa Roberts Logan.
Hey, y'all.
Hi, thank you so much for coming here.
I'm just so excited. I love this podcast. I love y'all's podcast.
You're
so much.
so nice. I feel like you are
Thank you so much.
Are probably number one IRL fan, because every time I see you, you're like, I just listened to this most recent episode of the pod. And I'm like,
and I listened to them again. Like I listened to your Dracula, the Franklin Jello Dracula, like 3 times.
Oh, good.
I listened to them.
Hell yeah, great choice.
Good. Yeah,
that's a good one.
They're all good.
But yeah, please introduce yourself. Tell us about what you do. Tell us your whole dealio. Who the fuck are you?
My name's Teresa Roberts Logan, and I go by all 3 because Roberts is my before married name and Logan is my after married name. And so I just use all 3 to confuse people. And I'm a cartoonist and a stand-up comic. And so I'm always saying I write for page and stage, and some jokes work better on the page and some jokes work better on stage. And each of those things has things that can enhance jokes, there are things that are specific to what you can paint and draw that you can't project the joke. And then there are things that you can do with your voice that you can't do on paper that help a joke. So anyway, that's what I do. I'm a mom. I love to travel. I love all kinds of stuff. I love Dracula so much. So my Dracula thing is...
tell us your deal.
So here's my dealio with Dracula.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've always loved Dracula and vampire stuff, and I don't know how many times I've read the novel, the Bram Stoker novel. And when I was 17, I saw Dracula on Broadway with the Edward Gorey set and Raul Julia as Dracula.
Oh my God.
Which blew me away. It introduced me to Raul Julia and Dracula, and Dracula and Edward Gorey, which sort of changed my life in some ways. And I just love it. And I read it, and I've watched all the movies I can. I haven't seen everything. I haven't seen all the movies y'all have seen. Like, I listen, and there's some things I haven't seen, so I've got to do that. But most of the TV series, most of that. And I actually happened to, during COVID, I thought, I've been dying to go to Dublin, and I found this really amazing ticket and a place to stay, and I booked a trip to Dublin. So my husband just encouraged me. He goes, "You've always wanted to go to Dublin, just do it." Cute. So I did, but I went after COVID had died down, they say. And it turned out that in the meantime, I opened for an Irish stand-up comic here who, it turns out, founded a major club in Dublin. So he gave me a set at his club in Dublin.
Hell yeah.
And then I found out, when I was looking online, that the Bram Stoker Festival was going to be while I was there.
Holy shit.
And
amazing.
The Nosferatu at 100 panel. So I went to, it was the 100th anniversary of Nosferatu, and then they had this little panel, and I went to it, and Dacre Stoker was on the panel.
Holy shit.
Talked about Bram Stoker and all the rights. Y'all know all that story.
Yeah,
I know you do.
Oh,
and it was just one of those wild things. Like, I can't believe I just, out of the blue, it's one of those universe coming together things.
Sure.
Like, I booked a trip to Dublin, and I get a set at a major club in Dublin, and then I get to go to the Bram Stoker Festival. You're kidding me. Anyway, I love Dracula, and I see the flaws, and I see the oldness of the book and the weirdness and the problems.
Yes.
But I do also love so much about it.
Oh, totally.
And then I love most of the movies, and even this movie, I have found things to love.
That's valid. You're valid for that.
But I'm also very sarcastic, so that will
yeah, that's true. No, I feel like you were kind of a perfect match for this, because I think we were so Teresa and I met because I used to work at a hair salon here in Pittsburgh that's owned by one of my very good friends. And you are her client. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we saw each other a lot because you know, your hair's short, so you get cut regularly.
Yeah.
And then
I always look forward to seeing Colleen and talking about y'all's podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Colleen.
That's just you and me like yapping and Katie being like, let me cut your fucking hair.
Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like at one point you mentioned like, oh, it might have actually been when the Dracula ballet was here in town because you're like, I'm going to go see the ballet because I love Dracula. And Katie looked at me with like laser eyes and was like, Colleen has a Dracula podcast. And then we just have not stopped talking about it since.
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 productions of Dracula ballet. I saw Dracula the musical in Stratford. I've seen a lot of different iterations.
Interesting.
And I loved the Dracula musical. There was this great song Renfield had, and it was like, won't you come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. It was so creepy. And I'm like, why aren't people doing Dracula the musical?
They should be.
I loved it.
What is your history with this particular movie? Have you seen it before?
I have seen it several times before. And I don't know the last time I watched it. Was probably within the last year. I don't know. Now and then, you know how there are movies that you want to like more than you like them?
Yes.
Oh, and I do have a thing about the Christopher Plummer thing that I almost met Christopher Plummer.
Really?
Because my husband was working in Stratford. He's in theater. And we go to the tiniest, tiny little cafeteria. You can't even, it's like 4 tables and a food bar. And Christopher Plummer came in and sat like right 3 feet away. And I was just trying to be so cool and not talk to him. And now I'm like, damn it. I should have talked to Christopher Plummer. But I was wanting to let him have his tuna melt in peace or whatever he was having.
He probably appreciated that, though.
Yeah. I was just trying to be like, oh, I know you're an actor. You can. But I'm like, but you could. But anyway, I didn't say anything. I have met famous people, but I was afraid. And it doesn't bother me, but like, I don't know, Christopher Plummer, I probably would have been silly.
I will tell you a story about meeting a famous person later.
Okay.
Yes, that Will, I think, knows. But Will, I want to hear if you've ever seen this movie, and then I will tell you about this movie for me, and then I'll tell you about meeting a famous person. Go ahead.
My only experience of this movie is like seeing the VHS and then probably the DVD cover for this on the store shelves at the local Blockbuster that I used to go to. I really had no real experience with it. I was genuinely shocked that Christopher Plummer was in this. In fact, I was shocked by a lot of the cast because I spent many years looking at the cover and thinking that one of the main characters was Chris O'Donnell, who plays Robin in the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. And it turns out, no, that is Johnny Lee Miller.
That's Johnny Lee
they
Miller.
both
Johnny
just
Lee
kind of look
Miller.
similar.
Yep.
The photos do look like him.
I can see that. No, you're right for that. So was this your first watch through?
Yes.
Oh, God. Okay. This is exciting. So we've got a veteran, we've got a newbie, and then I'm kind of in between. This was definitely in the oeuvre for me of like illicit rated R sleepover material, which was probably most horror that I saw prior to the age of like 18. Like was roughly between 12 and 16, being at friends' houses and just being like, what do you have that I'm not allowed to see? Same with like, what do you have that I'm not allowed to eat? Like my mom is amazing and she did her fucking best trying to raise me on like good food. But I would go to my friends' houses and literally knock on their door and take a Mountain Dew out of the fridge and fucking leave. Like I would roll up on my bike and just and be like, thank you for the soda. Which is probably why I have a sweet tooth now, is because my sweet mother tried so hard to like raise me right on good food, and
Spare you from the sweets.
She tried her best, but alas, it was not to be. But yeah, this is probably the second time I've seen this. I think I probably saw this when I was about 14. I don't remember any of it. So this was like, wait, what the fuck? This is what happened? I think I also confused a lot of it with Constantine.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that
There's a lot of
makes
overlap.
so much sense.
And then I confused a lot of it with Dracula 3000. And I have to tell y'all something seriously weird that happened
Yes.
today.
What
Okay,
happened
so
today?
I'm trying to watch this movie, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, good. I go to IMDb. Where is it? Where can I get it? Oh, yeah, Max. I've got a Max subscription.
Yeah.
So I go to Max. I click on Dracula 2000. What starts? It just starts. I'm like, O.J. Simpson's not in this movie. Why is O.J. Simpson a hot dog vendor? And then they show Leslie Nielsen, and it's the Naked Gun. And I'm like, did I click on the wrong thing? And I go back, and I'm like, no, I clicked on the right thing, and I kept clicking on. This is so weird. Dracula 2000 picture, but it kept playing the Naked Gun. So I'm like, well, maybe if I go to the Naked Gun, it'll play Dracula 2000. But that didn't work. And so I know. And so then what I did was I just kind of clicked completely out and closed the window and then started back into Amazon. And then I went to, and I rented it for $3.79.
Oh my God.
And then I'm like, when I rented it, what popped up wasn't the Dracula 2000 thing. It was Dracula 3000 visual.
Which is like a home
and I'm like,
straight to
no,
video.
I'm in this super weird, but I finally got to it. But isn't that weird? It kept playing the Naked Gun.
That's weird as hell.
I was like, at the beginning, I'm like, no, I know O.J. Simpson is not a hot dog vendor in Dracula 2000.
Pretty sure. Like, pretty reasonably sure.
Pretty reasonably sure. He would have gotten some topper billing than that.
Yeah, other than hot dog vendor. That's so fucking funny. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you.
Please do. But yeah, before we get into things, my meeting a famous person story is Will and I went to college together. There was a study abroad program in London where you could do like economics, art history, government, or theater. So I did like the theater track, and one of my friends, Evan, was there. Hi, Evan, if you're listening. And we are at a theater show. I believe we are seeing 12th Night starring Mark Rylance. So this is like roughly 2012, maybe 2013.
He's so good.
And the small college that we went to really likes to milk a few very famous alumni for donation purposes, one of whom is Viggo Mortensen.
Yes. So, do I follow Percival Press on everything? Yes.
Absolutely. So Viggo Mortensen went to our school, St. Lawrence, wants nothing fucking to do with it. Understandable. I get it. He is seated in front of us, like inches away.
Oh.
And Evan is like,
and you're sitting there going, Strider.
Yes. He's got like the hood over my face. And Evan is like, I'm going to say something. And I'm like, don't say something. Don't fucking do it. And he's like, no, I'm going to say something. So he taps on Viggo Mortensen's shoulder.
Oh my God.
So sorry to bother you, but we're here from St. Lawrence. And he looks at us, stands up, and walks away to a private box where he remains the rest of the show.
Oh, no, you didn't, Viggo.
We scared him. No. And we both just sat there slack-jawed, and I was like, I told you.
I told you not to tap Viggo on the shoulders.
No, he shot his shot, though. I respect it.
I do, too, because you know what? He could be living with the regret that I have for Christopher Plummer.
It's true.
I wish I had tapped Christopher Plummer on the shoulder. So he could diss me like he dissed y'all.
I'll say this. I had my own theater encounter with a celebrity on my study abroad, except that this theater experience was like a Muppet-style production of Romeo and Juliet, and the celebrity in question was Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. And you know what?
Gosh.
He was great. He was so cool.
Oh my gosh.
That's very funny. Holy shit.
That is very good. That's
What a weird
very
time.
good.
But today, my goodness, we're going to be looking at the 2000 American film Dracula 2000, otherwise known as Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000, directed by... Actually, not directed by Wes Craven? I can't remember. I don't know why
it was
Patrick
directed by... Oh, I thought it was directed by Wes Craven.
Yeah, I don't know why his name's on this. Actually, that's a great
it was
segue.
Wes Craven Presents. So that's
Is
what
it a
I should have been
production
the clue.
credit? My God. Regardless, before we get into the unnecessarily detailed plot summary, which I will be doing because this one needs it. It gets in the weeds real fast. Would you tell us a little bit about the background and production of this film?
Absolutely. First, I'm going to walk you through our cast real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
We've got as Dracula, Gerard Butler, years before 300, only a couple years before Phantom of the Opera. Fresh, little baby-faced Gerard Butler. As badass antiques dealer Simon Shepard, notably not Chris O'Donnell, but Johnny Lee Miller. I stand corrected. So, shockingly, Christopher Plummer as Van Helsing. Was really surprised to see him in this movie.
Insane, Paul.
Playing Mary Heller, who I think, as you point out in your notes, Teresa, really should just be named Mina. There's really no reason for this.
There's no reason for this.
It bothers me that they renamed her.
It's dumb.
It really boggles the mind. Justine Waddell. And then playing Lucy, who gets to keep her name, is Colleen Ann Fitzpatrick, known better as 90s and 2000s pop star Vitamin C, a name I had not heard since I was probably listening to Radio Disney in 2000, 2001.
Hard
so
agree.
This was, yeah.
I was surprised to see her, and then I thought I was losing my mind because I'm like, that's vitamin C.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be vitamin C. And then a couple other notable acting pulls. Like, whoever did the casting directing for this really kind of both crushed it and fumbled the bag. Like, this whole movie is a crush and a fumble the bag. We have a small role by Danny Masterson. Yikes.
Oh, no.
A small role, which actually is phenomenal, by Omar Epps.
Yes.
And then the surprise for all three of us, which I think we all three separately noted, is that fucking Nathan Fillion?
Yes, we all did.
We all were like,
in our notes.
Is that Nathan Fillion?
I think that's Nathan Fillion.
As Father David. Please continue, Will. Holy cow.
All right. I'm going to get into a little bit of the production of this movie. I don't have as detailed notes as I usually do, but I think what I have really just says it all. So this movie came about in the post-production for Scream 3, in which Bob Weinstein of the Weinstein Brothers approached the editor of that movie, Patrick Lussier, about making a modern take of Dracula entitled Dracula 2000. And when Lussier asked Weinstein what the film was about, Weinstein responded, "I don't know."
And boy, does that show.
So I guess because this was Dimension Films and because it was a Craven joint that somehow inspired on which this noble quest was enacted, Wes Craven was on as a producer and had his name plastered everywhere all over this production. Now, normally I would say, to get rewrites of a script that will go into a movie as you're doing it. But normally there's a finished script that's, done by the time of the movie, unless there's this real extra special case. In this case, that was not true. There was 2 weeks before production started on Dracula 2000, Scott Derrickson and his screen partner, Paul Harris Boardman, were contacted by Bob Weinstein to do a complete rewrite. And as Scott Derrickson on Twitter put, the discussion went along the lines of this. Bob, it's Bob Weinstein. You gotta save my life. Scott Derrickson, how so, Bob? Bob, my movie needs a rewrite. Shoots in 2 weeks. It's called Dracula 2000. It's terrible, but I'm making it anyway. Scott Derrickson, if it's terrible, why make it? Bob, because it's called Dracula 2000.
Oh, man.
And you know what? I love Scott Derrickson. I'm a big Scott Derrickson fan.
Oh, man.
I love Sinister. Is one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
Sinister is great.
Oh, my God. It's
I'll
so
try
scary.
to pull up some credits just in case people are...
And anytime you name a movie with a year in the title, I worry
you're
about
fucked.
you.
Yeah.
Unless it's like 100,000 years in the future. Because I remember, think about Prince and not party like it's 1999.
Oh, God, you're so right.
Yeah.
For that.
It's just like it's Prince, and now we're going 1999.
So some Scott Derrickson films that people might recognize: the Sinister series, the Doctor Strange movie, Day the Earth Stood Still, the 2008 version,
Exorcism of Emily Rose,
which was scary as hell.
Good.
And then one of the direct to DVD Hellraiser movies. Wow, okay. What a exciting background for this. So this was rewritten 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, they did not have Dracula cast. They cast Gerard Butler almost as a walk-in.
Oh,
making this movie.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
That also kind of shows, I won't lie.
Well, okay, so in defense of Gerard, I'll do that later. But, I do think that I kept watching this thinking, and I know it's 2000.
Right.
But I kept thinking this has such an 80s music video
100%,
vibe. Like,
yes.
including like the painted on abs and the stuff. I mean, not that he wasn't in good shape, but it's like the sparkles and the wind and the fog. Now, I dig the fog. More fog. Always fog.
Always
I
fog.
love fog.
You're right for that.
But, Yeah, I was just like, I feel like I'm watching, speaking of Dee Snider, I feel like I'm watching somebody sitting on top of a car yelling at me.
It's a Whitesnake video, but
totally.
Directed by Trent Reznor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. And so, I thought he probably walked in and they were like, good hair. It will blow in the wind. And,
actually might have been true.
And they actually, okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt because I don't want to get ahead.
Do it.
Okay, one thing I do notice, and maybe I noticed this because my husband's a dialect and speech coach and he works on film and TV stuff, but he's still, Gerard's still, and I love Gerard, I'm a Gerard fan, but he still had a little bit of Scottish, but I gotta say, I never complain about a little bit of Scottish. I love Scottish.
It's not bad.
But I also thought later, he didn't talk much, did he?
He did
not talk much in this. And I wondered if that was it, because but when he said propaganda, which made me laugh, he didn't go propaganda. It was like, I thought he did pretty good, but now and then you could hear the Scottish.
Yeah.
He was mainly there to have his hair blow in the wind, and he had abs they could paint around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so a little bit about the plot of this film. So a lot of what we've watched so far has been fairly straight adaptations or the occasional new film. Like last year we did Last Voyage of the Demeter and Renfield, neither of which are particularly straight adaptations in quotes, but they were new, so we covered them. This is kind of an interesting in-between because a lot of the Dracula that we see from like the 60s to the 80s is almost like public domain fan fiction, right? So they're taking Dracula out of context and they're doing kooky stuff with it. It's where you get your Batman Draculas. It's where you get your El Santos. Kind of like stuff like that, where they're using the character, but it's devoid of any context. This is almost a sequel that both rewrites the lore of the original Dracula and comes up with an original story. So it's an odd concept to begin with. It very much shows that they picked the title prior to anything else, which I almost respect them for being that ballsy.
And then they called Scott Derrickson and said, "Get her done.
Get her done, boy."
But I like the lore. I thought the lore is probably my favorite thing about this movie. Like, okay.
Like a little...
You explain some stuff?
It feels more complete than the actual contemporary plot.
Yes.
So the loosest of loose plot summaries, which loose with a asterisk next to it, because I am probably going to talk for like probably 4 minutes straight, and I'm very sorry about that. We begin on the Demeter, which is our little kind of like introductory scene, which I think is a fun way to start.
I loved that. I loved seeing the guy lashed to the round thingy. What's the wheel they call it?
I'm just going to call it a wheel.
The big wheel thingy. I like seeing that. Yeah. I like that.
And then we jump, excuse me, and then we jump to the year 2000, the distant future, in London, where we see a Dutch physician who may be familiar, who is going by the name Matthew Van Helsing, which is fucking silly for the record. But he's an antiques dealer. He specifically collects kind of fun occult things, and his assistant Simon, played by Johnny Lee Miller, is showing him an old crossbow that, would have been used for vampire hunting. And Christopher Plummer / Matthew Van Helsing says, yes, my grandfather inspired a character in the Bram Stoker book. So we're already getting a little meta, which is fun. Van Helsing's secretary, Sonia, plans a heist of all of the antiques, and you see that there is very intense security around this. So Sonia and Omar Epps and Danny Masterson and a few other goons break in to the depths of this area, going further and further down, until they reach a singular room containing a coffin. They try to touch the coffin, they fuck with a bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of them die in spike traps. It's actually kind of funny. It's a little comical.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of comedy.
Yes, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. It's like a horror comedy.
Right. They steal the coffin because they can't open it. They get on a plane. While they are flying, Danny Masterson cuts himself with a knife accidentally, gets blood on the coffin. The coffin opens, and it contains a creepy husk almost like a corpse, which I actually thought was a great prop.
It was a good prop. It was creepy.
But after attacking Danny Masterson, it becomes clear that this is Dracula. Kills everybody on the plane. Plane crashes in New Orleans. We have also seen a young woman named Mary and her roommate Lucy in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. Mary is having increasingly bizarre nightmares featuring who we will later discover is Dracula / Gerard Butler. So this is all kind of happening at the same time. So Van Helsing, upon noticing that he's been robbed and that literally Dracula has been stolen, hightails it to New Orleans. Johnny Lee Miller follows him. They realize that everybody who was on the plane, including the secretary Sonia and Omar Epps, have been turned into vampires, and kind of a chase ensues. Some major points about that is that Dracula is looking for Mary specifically because she is the daughter of Van Helsing, and Van Helsing is not exactly who he says he is. He's not a Matthew Van Helsing. He is Abraham Van Helsing himself, Scarecord, who has been keeping himself alive by injecting himself with Dracula's blood in order to find a way to finally kill Dracula. So all of this time, 100 years or so, he has been keeping Dracula locked up as his kind of keeper and looking for a way to kill him because Dracula in this version is, in quotes, immortal. So Mary, his daughter, has inherited some of that Draculian bloodline, and is herself a, quote, vampire born, meaning she is not made, she was just born this way, and that is unique for this world. Therefore, Dracula is trying to find her and presumably kill her. It's a little weird to me that there's kind of... It does that feel incestuous to you?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I had several... And I also had feelings when I started thinking way too hard about it.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Is that... okay, how old was Van Helsing when he impregnated her mother?
Right.
And did he look like this or did he look
What's
like
the
that?
deal here?
And how old was she? Because this woman's like kind of young.
Yes.
Mary Mina is kind of young.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I also felt like a lot of the drama between daughter and dad was kind of brushed over.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Will?
I mean, how much leeway will you get if you're Abraham Van Helsing and you look like Christopher Plummer at really any age?
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, because I don't want that to sound ageist, but I started thinking because I started thinking about that. Like, did he look like this? Because the leech... Okay, so the leeches thing is a big deal. So the leeches don't seem to be keeping him as young as maybe he thinks they are.
It's not clear, and like again, the injections of Dracula's blood is like filtered via leeches, which is kind of a unique take on all of this, but I don't really know if it's necessary.
That was one of my favorite things in the movie when the guy, Danny Masterson, opens the coffin, which, you know, if a coffin kind of pops open, don't ever lean into it. Do not lean into the coffin that popped open. And a spring-loaded leech attaches itself to his eyelid. Like, that was one of my favorite things.
And there's like a quick zoom on it. It's really funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
Anyway, so Mary has not talked to her father in years. They are not on speaking terms due to a lot of his beliefs regarding the occult. So it's kind of a race to reach Mary before Dracula does, and to kind of stop him from, and his now small crew of vampires, from attacking and turning everybody in the city, because of course it's Mardi Gras. Then we have a scene with Lucy and Dracula where she is turned. Van Helsing is fairly unceremoniously killed.
That was jarring.
Yes, by Dracula, assumedly. So at this point, our hero is now Simon. Which I kind of hope this is a reference to Castlevania, but I don't think it is.
Him being named Simon?
Yeah.
I was thinking it was a biblical reference.
It probably is.
Like one of the apostles, Simon, like there was Simon the Zealot. I was just looking that up again because I've forgotten some of my Sunday school stuff.
You're real.
But yeah, I think, there were a couple of Simons in the Bible it could be, but I thought it was probably one of the apostles.
Yeah. So then he's kind of our leading man here. fighting off Dracula from attacking Mary/Mina. And it's become clear that they have a connection because she can speak Aramaic. All of this stuff. They have a whole scene in the library telling us lore that we already know for some reason. Like how Dracula works is that he hates everything Christian. And silver, for some reason. Why would he hate silver? Eventually, Simon is incapacitated. Dracula and Mary have a big scene on a rooftop with a big neon cross, which is actually pretty cool. I won't lie.
It's pretty good stuff.
I love that.
It was pretty good. And he says he's going to show her something he's never showed anybody, which is, big reveal, Dracula is Judas Iscariot. Which I feel like we're going to see in newer movies now. I feel like this was kind of the...
That was good lore.
Yeah, it's good lore. So it's interesting. It is funny to me that reveal comes literally 15 minutes before the end of the movie. There's a big fight. The three, quote, brides, which is Lucy, Sonia, and then a news anchor for some unknown reason.
Played by Jerry Ryan of Star Trek fame, again, for some reason.
Again, like, really, really wild, really wild casting. So those are our brides in this version. They attack Simon. We think that Mary has succumbed to Dracula, and then she pulls her gambit in which that she fake attacked Simon. They all fight. Eventually, Mary ties a piece of cable around Dracula's neck, and they kind of fall off of the crucifix on the roof, which both hangs him and lets him alight in the sunlight. The end is her and Simon, Mary and Simon, saying, "We are now the keepers of, the remains of Dracula," and that's our whole thing. So wow, that goes a little crazy ball. That goes off the rails. It's interesting. I don't know if it was good.
You mean the movie or the ending?
All of it. So let's give our first most base impressions. Will, how the fuck do you feel about this movie?
I feel like this is a movie that exists in a very strange valley of badness.
Yes.
Because
yes.
An uncanny valley of badness.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly, precisely, yes. Because it is not so bad that it's good, which there are a lot of movies that are, and I feel like people bandy that term about, but that is a certain kind of thing that captures lightning in a bottle that really pushes, something that's so bad that pushes over the edge that it is, unbelievable, becomes a singular work again. That's, The Room. That's your Ed Wood films.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have movies that are kind of, ludicrous and kooky, but a lot of fun. I might think of something like the original Highlander. That. A movie that is super high concept, and I can't for the life of me be like, this is a hallmark of cinema. Put this in the Criterion Collection. But I love that movie because it really just goes for broke with its silly lore. This movie is not. It is just good enough and competently enough made that it's not so bad it's good. But it's also not good. It is just bad and sort of it is a secret third kind of bad.
Yes.
Where it just kind of awkwardly exists in between these two things. And there's a lot I like in it, but as a whole it's they really skip over some essential lore, and almost no one in this movie has chemistry with one another.
Oh, that's so true.
So true. Teresa, what's your kind of base review of this guy?
Okay, my basic is, but this is because I've seen it several times.
It's true.
The first time I was like, holy, no.
Yeah, no.
But then the more I've watched it, I lowered expectations, but also I feel like it's Fright Nighty, kitschy, cheesy. Don't expect to be if you're a Dracula nerd and I go into things wanting a sexy, powerful, amazing, mesmerizing, I get why people fall all over this guy person. Mm-hmm. And this movie doesn't do that, even though Gerard's hair blows beautifully in the wind machines. I do believe that this is kitschy, and if you lower your expectations and get some flaming Cheetos, and then just maybe do like a Cheeto game where you eat flaming Cheetos every time there's sparkles or fog. But you can have fun with it.
Right.
But it's not. This is one of those movies I think is fun to watch, but I don't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
Unless they know me really well, and then I would have to go, okay. This is one of those movies.
Yes. I think I'm kind of in between you guys also, where like, I really like this era of filmmaking specifically because it has a very, very unique look to it. Like, this looks to me kind of like the Underworld films or Constantine or Blade.
Yes.
Like, even like a little more contemporary than Blade. But this kind of early aughts meshing of sci-fi and fantasy that was very popular at the time, a la the Van Helsing movie, which we will also be watching at some point, I do have a soft spot for, because that's what was popular when I was getting into horror.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of, I think, like the first Hellboy movie in this too, where there's a lot of like secret chambers where you like click something and then like intricate puzzle boxes open, revealing like a leeches of Dracula blood or something, and that is something that happens all the time in that Hellboy movie.
Yes, the campiness, and I shouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. It's just like I would have to kind of explain it.
Yes.
I would go, okay, do you like? It would be like Fright Night is to Cheetos as
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
I would have to do like a test, because I feel like you can get into it. And I think the lore is so good, but I confess, find myself hoping somebody would take the lore and remake this idea.
Yes. This, I think, would actually be ripe for a redo. This actual property.
I do too.
This specific property.
I do too.
Because it goes in so many different directions, and like anything that has a historical basis but is a contemporary take, you're probably going to have it. One of those stories is going to suffer. And like we saw that in the Renfield movie, where like you had your contemporary stuff with young Renfield and then your old stuff, which was fun, but like it's hard to mesh the two of them. And while Renfield took the kind of like hyper gory Deadpool-esque approach, I would like to see this redone in a way where it almost ups the early oddness of it all.
Yes.
Because it just takes itself like a smidge too seriously.
Yes.
That is. I think this would be one of those. This would be ideal to do, like, just even call it Dracula 2000 again, and just have it be like the same setting, but it is now like, because we're now in that like early aughts, has like have come back around to being in right now. You film it in the style of like the early aughts, and maybe you can give it some of the like flourishes that weren't obvious in the actual era. Like, have more queer characters in it. Have like more diversity in terms of like the characters. Have actual characters that have chemistry with each other. I swear
like
to
anything.
God.
I wanted
you.
some chemistry, and honestly, the Mary Mina person just felt so teenage.
So teenage.
That then this like sexy club man comes in, and it just was kind of hard to not cringe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also all the women were like a type. Like they did all look like, I just thought, the blondness.
The blondness of this all is astounding.
Everyone looked like a local anchor. That's what they all looked like.
No.
The brides.
Yes, that's
the
very
local
real.
anchor brides.
And like that is upsetting to me as a very diehard Buffy person, because Buffy already subverted that like years before. And I'm like, why are we undoing that? Like, Buffy's whole thing is that, like, she's blonde, she's feminine, she's not great at school, but she is extremely badass and her own woman. And then we had 3 literal pornified bimbos in this. At one point, like, the women in this were, I think, some of the worst impulses of this era of filmmaking.
Oh,
They were.
It was not good.
Nobody had any sense.
No.
There was no man or bear.
No, it was no man or bear.
There was not a choice there. No. But all these women, like, I love, like, he goes and she's like, well, just follow me home and I'll invite you to the apartment and you wait for my roommate. You can lie and wait for my roommate.
Insane.
And then when Johnny Lee Miller goes to marry Mina and she goes, well, not here in the public Virgin store, huh? And
yeah,
then,
exactly. Come down.
No, come follow me into the, completely empty garage so we can talk. It was just like, you do all the things we don't do.
Right. You are hitting the horror movie tropes really hard right now.
Totally. But I did feel like, and I love Johnny Lee Miller.
Yes.
And I thought he played, is it okay to just talk about everything,
let's
everything?
Go,
yeah,
let's like do everything, and then we'll kind of go through the actors a little bit. So like, let's start with Johnny Lee, because he's right at the top. We should do it.
Well, I love Johnny Lee Miller.
Yeah.
And I thought he was great with all the campy comedy, like the responses to Christopher Plummer when Christopher Plummer just gets in the car and starts going, okay, so there are vampires. And he's like, what? And he gets out of the car. He was really good with the humor and stuff like I thought he was great.
Yeah. He did one of the best jobs of the cast. He worked really hard to do a lot with a very empty character. Like,
yes.
They were like, bless Scott Derrickson, but he was just like snarky hero.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
snarky hero. But I thought he did a very good job. Also physically, everybody in this movie looked really weird and detached from themselves, but he actually looked like a real person.
That's that's true. Yeah.
What did you think, Will?
Oh, yeah, that is an interesting way to put it. Yeah, it feels like, I think detached is the word from it. Everyone feels like they're acting in a separate movie from each other.
Yes. Very much so.
And the only cringe thing that Johnny Lee did in this, Johnny Lee Simon, was when, like, he's explaining to her, like, maybe I can help you. Well, she's like, why are you helping me? And he says, well, I'm helping you because I couldn't help your father. Maybe I can help you now. And maybe I would help you even if your father... And I'm thinking, are you seriously choosing this moment to flirt with her? Is that what is happening right now? But I loved him anyway. I like Johnny Lee.
He did a good job. He had the best line in the movie also, which was, never fuck with an antiques dealer.
Oh, I loved that.
That was fun. I think you noted specifically that he has good aim. There was a lot of like action hero syndrome in this, which is like guy who should not be good at anything physical, but is suddenly very competent.
Those antique dealers.
Yeah, those antique dealers, apparently.
Been practicing with those crossbows.
Good God. But I think that brings us next to Mary Mina, who was, Justine Waddell. I don't know her from anything. What the hell is she in? Okay, she is in the 2006 film The Fall, which I believe stars Lee Pace also. And then was in an adaptation of Tess of D'Urberville's and Great Expectations. Okay, so she's South African. And seems to have a pretty short and weird filmography. And that kind of tracks. Will, what was your take on her performance as Mary Mina?
I feel like she is a character that is not written with very much going on, and is to the point where they try later on to, in reshoots, to give her more to do. All the scenes with Nathan Fillion were reshoots. They created this role and cast him in it to give reshoots so she could have another person to talk to and have
weird,
a little more interiority.
Didn't you think it was weird to go to the priest about your bad dreams?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, what? She's in is that a fancy window treatment? Yeah. Or is she in
She's straight up in confession right now.
She's talking, and then I was like, that's Nathan Fillion.
And what's odd is it feels like they set up that there's going to be some dynamic, that they had some kind of relationship. I mean, which is the only way I can read that. Like, I think, that she chose to, how did she phrase it? To boycott?
Oh, boycott. Oh, yeah, where she said, I boycotted your ordination. And I thought, what a random sentence. It didn't make any sense. Well, I boycotted your ordination. Like, well, how was that? Is that part of your dream? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was like, oh man, are we going to have a thing where now, like, Nathan Fillion is going to have to be, like, a sexy, conflicted priest who's going to, like, return to his old flame, but maybe, like, give up his vows, but also save the day? And then, no, he shows up in one more scene and then is gone.
and then is gone. And that actually would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting.
Comically, this would have been the second time around the year 2000 that Nathan Fillion played a priest, because he is in a season 7 episode of Buffy in which he plays an evil priest.
Ooh.
Who straight up gouges out one of Nicholas Brennan's eyes. And it's actually very scary. So the second I saw him in the priest garb, I had like a like, oh fuck moment, because he was this character like moments before, which I think actually led him to being cast in Firefly, because that was his first interaction with Joss Whedon. Anyway, I agree with you there, is that like the fact that they had to write her additional scenes to give her literally anything going on is indicative of a lot of the issues with this character.
She seemed like one of those people that's an extra in a video. I kept getting Courtney Cox in a Bruce Springsteen video vibes.
Yes.
Very
like, I'm just going to dance in the dark. And
like, why is she here?
Yeah. So it was interesting because it's not like, I didn't think she was like a bad actor. I just felt like, this is weird casting. She just seems like a boppy little teenager.
And she was in a different movie.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it.
This, like Johnny Lee Miller, as you said, is going with the slapstick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of the women in this are going with the porn. A lot of the other men, like the other villains, such as Omar Epps in particular, they're going camp, they're going kitsch. So to have her give a strangely subdued performance was confusing for me, because again, I don't think she did a bad job.
She didn't. No,
I just thought it didn't match anything else that was going on.
I think if you look at this movie too, is very slapstick and campy, because when they were showing the overhead shots of the plane has crashed in the swamp, and now here's Val who wears spike black heels.
Yeah,
the reporter woman who wears the spike heels into the swamp our intrepid reporter.
It was very Ninja Turtles.
It was very odd. And then she stood there, and then when suddenly the vampires, Dracula's after her, she climbs into the van and closes it behind the hapless camera guy, and then the camera's on him, and I thought, this is funny. It's funny, and I kind of was going with that, like, this is like a horror that doesn't know it's not a comedy.
Yeah, exactly,
but it is a comedy.
And she was in a straight drama, like, she was very sincere. She was very sincere, and something that was confusing to me is, you mentioned, Teresa, she does read as a teenager, but she's not styled as one. Like, I don't know how old Mary is supposed to be in this. Do we see that anywhere, like online or anything? Because I'm like,
let's see. I'm gonna try. Heaven help me to do some math. She would have been 25.
Interesting.
24, 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And I liked that when Dracula goes into their apartment, he says it's so Catholic, or a bit more Catholic or something. But what that made me think of is like the whole setting in NOLA. Like, she didn't feel like a New Orleans person at all. And New Orleans just is a character, right. And they barely used it, and that bothered me, because I just love that place, and I love that they used the cemetery, but it's such a character, and it has such a feel, and this just felt like almost like Southern California, but we're pretending it's NOLA.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That's pretty much exactly it. Who's next on our cast list here? Maybe we should do our close personal friend Vitamin C as Lucy, who kept her name for unknown reasons that irritate all of us. This is weird casting to me.
No, we'll get to that in a minute. But she was very strange, and she seemed a lot older.
Yes,
a lot older. Like they
older.
wouldn't be roomies, and like they didn't even seem like roomies at all.
No,
like, who's this person in my house?
Yes, and that's kind of, for me, the lack of chemistry between any of the leads with anybody.
Yeah,
was like astounding. Like, I felt like they were doing like 2010's Marvel era green screen acting, where none of them were actually talking to each other.
Like, it wasn't sexy. And I just feel like Dracula needs to be really sexy, and just that, I get it. I mean, not that Gerard Butler, I think, is sexy. I just don't think this was sexy.
Right.
Like, this, like, there was no allure, and there was no, I don't get it, and all the women who were, it was like caricatures of women who are trying to be sexy on the internet. That's what it felt like.
No, very much so.
It
like,
is.
Watch me put my makeup on. You know, kind of
it is sexy in the way that, like, in like a new metal video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, like what a really immature person thinks is sexy.
Is this the new metal of Dracula movies?
Oh.
I think it is.
Yes. This is the new metal of Dracula. There are Disturbed albums on the wall of that Virgin Records. They
Yes,
are
there
playing
are.
Power Man 5000. This is the new metal Dracula.
Yeah, and I'm guessing Virgin sponsored it because there was a
They had
Virgin
to.
van and there was a Virgin shop. How many? Everybody's got to be wearing a Virgin shirt to
My
work in
God.
Virgin. You know, it's so funny.
It is,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I gotta try it. It's the Dracula.
Yeah, like a very brief like rundown of some of the songs on this soundtrack, which actually
I liked
unironically
the
fucks.
soundtrack. It needed Rob Zombie's Dracula. Though.
It did.
I wanted
Rob
that.
Zombie.
It did.
I wanted that really badly.
But we've got Power Man 5000, as mentioned. We do have a Disturbed reference in there. A Slayer track, a System of a Down track from their first album, I think. A Marilyn Manson, Yikes, a Linkin Park, a Pantera, a Static X, Half Cocked. Like, this really is a, like, early aughts techno / new metal. And that kind of fits it. Like,
It does.
I wanted it to lean more into that, where it's like, doesn't take itself as seriously. Like, the System of a Down guys obviously will write serious material, but in that era in particular, they were doing kooky shit and they did not give a fuck.
The songs have serious messages, but have you heard Serj Tankian ever, like, perform any of these songs? Oh my god.
And, like, this would have been right around when Sugar came out. Like, that is a goofy song about, like, doing drugs and having a breakdown in your bedroom. Like,
Well, it did feel like one big music video. I mean, I just
you
kept
were so
feeling
real
like
for
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it did just feel like a music video with, an interesting lore.
Right.
And, but there were also like, and we could talk more about that, but so many things they did that were just illogical, even within what we're doing. And I'm a person,
Yes.
I'll buy vampires, man. I'll buy
Sure.
zombies. I'll buy it all. I love it. I believe in everything. You know, I'm just sitting there going, like, I will go with your world.
Right.
I will go there.
You're easy.
But if you start breaking all the rules, or if everybody's too stupid, and I'm just going, well, Jen, I hate that feeling of like, well, you should have died because you
Right.
leaned into a coffin that popped open all by itself.
I mean, I
you
guess,
go.
I guess
You
it makes
peeled
sense.
a leech off your eyelid and you leaned in anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's all right. I guess it makes sense that this is like that. This idea was hatched in the post production for Scream 3, because the feeling that I got is it is trying to fit Dracula and that lore into the mold of the like 90s slasher revival, things like the original Scream or like I Know What You Did Last Summer. It is like trying to retain that vibe, but what that vibe has is even the stock characters are, you know, interesting and have actual character. The guy who's like the horror expert nerd in Scream, you know, Jamie Kennedy's actually like fun and charming and fun to watch. Neve Campbell holds her own in her role like at the center of that movie. It has like national treasure Matthew Lillard in it.
Yes. Well, it is funny too because they did do a lot of that stuff like punishing, you know, the bimbo-y women and stuff like that. But yeah, I was very jarred by the offing of Van Helsing off screen.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, oh, so he's just gone now and we don't know. And you were saying you thought probably Dracula came in and did it, but then I started wondering, did the brides do it? But then I thought the brides seemed to be pretty useless.
Yeah, they don't do a lot. Other
So they
than
probably
be sexy.
didn't do it.
They have like a Charlie's Angels shot at one point where all three of them are lined up in their like little white dresses, being like,
in little wedding dresses.
Yeah.
Get it,
Yeah,
brides,
we got
get it.
Yeah, it's hitting you over the head with a lot.
They're all doing like sexy baby whisper talk, and I watched a free rip of this on YouTube without subtitles, and it was driving me insane.
Oh, you're a brave man for that.
I paid $3.79 for that.
I stole Sarah Lawrence's
So-
HBO Max subscription for this.
I paid $3.79, so I wouldn't be talking about the Naked Gun tonight.
Holy shit. Man, okay. So then I guess we should circle back to Christopher Plummer as Matthew/Abraham Van Helsing. Will, what did you think of this Van Helsing? We've seen a lot of Van Helsings in our journey here.
We have. You know, the thing that I was thinking of with this movie is, why is Christopher Plummer here? Because, again, as we've gone over, they just had a title. What did they show to Christopher Plummer that got him on board?
Great question. Great question. Unclear.
And the way I was thinking about it is, I remember years ago, when Captain America: The Winter Soldier came out, someone was talking about, they have Robert Redford in that movie, and, sort of stunt casting, sort of to try and reference All the President's Men. The way someone described it in a review is that he's good in it, but it reminded them of, like, when you convinced your dad to play, like, pretend with you and your friends.
Oh my god!
Like, do the tea party with me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got whole movie energy.
Oh, well,
no.
Sometimes I wonder about that, because I've seen him in some stuff where I was like, oh, interesting that you chose to do this. But, I did used to love that thing that Michael Caine always did, where he was like, I'll be in anything they asked me to do. I love doing this for a living much.
That's cute.
Michael Caine would do any movie anyone asked him, and I love him for that.
That's legit.
So I thought maybe Christopher was having a Michael Caine moment and going, Dracula 2000.
He's feeling generous.
Sure.
Yeah. Why not?
I think there's a famous quote from him about Jaws: The Revenge, where Michael Caine says, I haven't seen Jaws: The Revenge, but I have seen the house that it bought, and it's quite nice.
That's so good.
Good for him. That's great.
Yeah, good. That's a good for him moment.
I love
for sure.
that.
But yeah, I think this is like a very well-trod take on Van Helsing. Like, we've seen, you usually have your old scholar or your, like, younger badass, right? This is the old scholar. But I do think it was a fun idea to have him be the original Abraham.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, kind of succumb to some fucked up shit in keeping himself alive. Kind of like his need for knowledge on how to defeat Dracula has consumed him so much that he has forfeited some humanity. Like, that's cool. That's a cool take.
But I love this I'm sorry. I love this idea that he has been trying to figure out a way to kill him for years. And I just love the visual that, like, he will find something new every, like, decade or two. Like, it'll be like, get, like, an AK-47 and just, like, try blasting Dracula with the hand and being like, oh no, we're back to the shit drawing board.
Oh,
and that would be fun to see in the movie, because I was sitting there watching that thinking, he's so like Batman in that he's got all this money and he's got all these vaults. But then I also fault him, Van Helsing, the character, for choosing to house Dracula in the dark. Like, why don't you just keep him on the lanai and let the sun...
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It feels like you're doing everything. And then what happens when anybody tries to break in is they get hit with spikes, which brings blood. And then it gets sucked into the... Oh, but I did love that effect of the blood getting sucked in. Have y'all seen The Boys from County Hell?
No.
It's good.
It's
good. Yes, do watch that. But that drawing the blood from people just across the
Slurpee
is really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I won't say more, but it's good. But I did really kind of sit there and wonder, like, okay, so explain to me why this is his way of keeping Dracula from the world versus, like, why isn't he in, like, a tanning bed on your back patio?
Right.
And over the year, I don't know.
No.
But I also don't like to do what I just did, where you overthink everything.
But I think with this movie, they make it really hard to suspend belief. Because for me, the major issue was the very end, in which, she doesn't... She kills Dracula, in quotes, saying that, like, I'm keeping his ashes. But, like, had we not thought of
always
immolation...
a bad idea.
Yeah, like... And the fact that she hangs him, it's like, we didn't try that before.
Well, and the sun, why does the sun get him? I
got questions.
Do we want to talk about that part yet, or do we want to wait?
Let's do it.
No, we can go into it.
Okay, so the ending, so I'm thinking, first of all, he does that thing where she's already becoming a vampire at that point,
right.
And he drops her. He drops her on the pavement.
Off the
this
fucking
is how
roof.
This is how I like to boringly kill people. I drop them on the pavement. And then he looks her in the eyes and is like, I release you. And then I think, okay, is that the moment where we're supposed to think he really is asking forgiveness? And look, I'm trying to be good. I'm giving somebody their life back. And so then Jesus who's on the neon cross, which I love that neon cross. I love that whole set piece. And then they show that picture, but I want y'all to look back at that and look how funny the hair on that Jesus is.
It's hysterical.
It's like, that old kind of flip, the blonde flip they used to do in the 60s.
He looks like a hairspray.
He does look like an Aquanet ad.
Yes, it's bad.
But I thought, okay, is that what just happened? Because then he's more mortal and the sun can get him and he loses all his power. Like, why does the sun get him now? Because surely Van Helsing tried that.
That's my whole thing.
Already.
I'm like, we didn't try that outside?
Yeah, we didn't try just like putting him on the beach with no suntan lotion.
Just like cook him?
Yeah. And so then I thought, I was trying to explain it. I thought, well, maybe it's because in that moment he released his power. He released everything when he released her.
Right.
And that was a way of saying, okay, I'm ready to go. And he was just giving up. And that was really him giving up because he knew he was forgiven and all that.
And like that, the whole internal logic of this is that the reason Dracula is in quotes immortal is because God will not take him. He will not allow him to die for the crimes that he committed as Judas. And like, again, that's a cool justification of immortality. Why didn't we do anything with it until 10 fucking minutes were left in the movie?
And also, why couldn't he find her before? Right. I have walked the earth for centuries. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you, though?
And also, that's a rip of I have crossed oceans of time to find you, for the record.
Well, but this was before that, wasn't it? No, this was after that.
Yeah.
Right. I have crossed oceans of stuff.
I'm swimming a lot to find you.
I'm swimming a lot. Came over on a ship. But that whole idea that no idea where to find her. And I thought you could just hire like a really good detective.
Yeah.
I don't know, that whole thing of he had to find her. So I almost felt it would have been better if they hadn't tied anything to this Van Helsing bloodline thing.
Right.
That would have been more interesting, that this is just a woman he's interested in. He's always looking for somebody that he doesn't mind.
Instead of the
that he doesn't mind spending eternity with.
Pseudo blood incest of it all, which was very weird.
I did think that was weird. Like, you are mine. I've been looking for you. You are really bad at finding things.
Yeah.
But I also confess that I, at one point, was like, were they in New York? Where were they before this? Why are they all, how'd they all get to NOLA so fast? Like, what?
They were in London, but
they were in London, you said.
Apparently took the quick train. It's weird. Well, what did you think of the ending? Did it stick for you?
No, because they try and it doesn't really stick. And I feel like at the end they really try and go hard on setting up a sequel that this cast cannot hold up at all.
No, my God, no.
I don't see Mary Mina in a sequel, no.
No, she is not the main character, dude.
Well, and and then I was thinking about, like, Dracula said, it was my destiny to betray you. And I thought, well, that is the ultimate in gaslighting, is it not?
Truth.
I was destined to.
He did have a fire line about that, something he said, because when she like fake bites Simon.
Oh, yeah.
And that's her like way where they, finally attack him. Which, first of all, this Mary, obviously, this whole time has been so useless. I'm like, why? The fact that she could come up with a gambit like this convincingly on the spot is
I didn't buy it either.
I don't buy that. But the line he had, which was, "You think you can teach me about betrayal?"
Oh, I did think that was
That's fire.
So
That's
good.
A fire bar.
That was so good. But yeah, the Mary Mina was never menacing. Like when she was coming at him, I was just thinking, no.
Not good.
She just feels like she's going to give you a hickey and leave the room.
Well, I think this brings us kind of back to, like, the main meat here. Gerard Butler. William, please give me all of your thoughts on Mr. Butler himself within this film as our Jew Dracula. Dracula?
Oh, Dracula.
Yeah,
I was calling him Dracula.
But I was also
Gerard
trying to do...
and Dracula.
I was also trying to do Judas.
Dracula, as
Dracula. Oh my God, that was
inexplicably calls.
Isn't that somebody trying to suddenly speak Romanian? Dracula. You're doing like a German, Dutch, British, but
Too
then
much.
It's like Dracula.
Dracula. Who the fuck is that? Anyway, please go ahead, Will.
Listen, I think he's a great and fine screen presence in a lot of movies. He's, he can carry a film, but I feel like here, what happened is that they hired a body and then they realized they needed it to talk. Which is why I think for most of the movie, he does not have any dialogue, really. He's just kind of menacing or doing like a little coy smile. And then at the end, he really has to really stand and deliver. He has to dump some real, like, heavy-duty exposition. I feel like that does not serve him well.
No, it doesn't. And, like, I'm with you there. And, like, I don't think he does a capital B bad job. I think it's clear that they hired him 2 fucking days before.
Yeah.
And, like, I think it shows the weaknesses of the script that he has so little to work with. Hiring a body is a very good way to phrase that. My main issue is more so with the body. I feel like the way that they did the costuming on him is, like, you were correct that it definitely looks like it's out of an 80s music video, which I do not mind.
No,
but
don't.
I think they should have gone harder on that. Like, this movie accepted it that it was cheesy. But, like, they have him on, like, a t-shirt and, like, a trench coat that doesn't fit.
Well, that was I kept looking at that like that was a very, the Matrix vibe with all the long black coats and stuff, which I think is gorgeous and makes sense.
Right.
In a lot of ways. But I also feel like they were having him, and to me, I will not blame Gerard for this.
Yes.
There was way too many of that reaching out at you and turning the hand and beckoning.
Too much.
And I thought, actors, technical. Actors have to do that stuff, and they have to do it 1,000,000 times, and they don't know how much you're going to put it in the movie. Like, so he probably watched the movie and went, dang, I did it 20 times. You didn't have to put 20 of them in there.
Real.
He probably thought they were going to, you know what I mean? I felt like that was weird direction in editing. Like, he had to beckon women so many times, and he probably had to do it all these different ways. And then the director was like, well, let's just put them all in
there.
And I just thought there was a lot of that, and I don't blame him for that.
And, like,
I thought that was weird.
I will do my takedown of Gerard Butler, and then we will give you capital in defense of Gerard Butler.
Well, okay.
Are you defending
I
Butler?
am defending Gerard.
Okay, that's valid. I think that he does an okay job considering what he's given.
Yes.
But for me, the utter lack of chemistry with anybody, and that's also their faults, to be clear. Like, everybody in this did not work with each other well. But he seemed very blandly sexy to me. Like, it was very
like caricaturely sexy.
Yeah, but like not even over the top. It was kind of like cardboard cutout of a guy without a shirt on. Like, when you went into an FYE back in the day and they had like a Legolas.
Yes.
And like you would buy the Legolas for your room and your friends would make out with it.
But you wouldn't tap on its shoulder and say I went to
St.
St.
Lawrence. Exactly. Good callback, Teresa. Very good. Like, I feel like this was made for cardboard cutout reasons and kind of directed and written and acted as such. Like, it was so flat to me, and I wanted to see, because we have the Judas backstory, I wanted to see some of the, like, torturedness of that. Like, the fact that he has taken all of his sadness from his betrayal, from trying to die and not being able to.
Yes.
Like, I wanted to see that come out in, like, fucked up, rageful ways. Whereas instead, to me, it felt like he did a lot of walking.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a lot of beckoning, as you mentioned.
The beckoning.
And that's kind of it. And, like, he did have a very sexy scene with Lucy, which was on the ceiling and, like, super silly. But that's the kind of camp that I think is fun for this.
And that was from the Frank Langella Dracula.
Like, that's fun.
That whole red scene. Yeah.
Like,
the whole red sex on the ceiling and the floaty, airy chiffon scene.
So much chiffon. And, like, that long hallway with the brides where the hallway kind of extends and it all has, like, the red curtains. Like, that's fun.
That was cool.
I thought that was like The Shining.
Very The Shining.
Or The Shinning, The Shinning of The Simpsons. Where he goes, and Burns goes, usually the blood gets off on the second floor.
So fucking
That's what that scene. And it's so bad. Yes. So much stuff has ruined scenes for me because I also can't watch the sexy movies like sexy vampires without thinking of that whole Key and Peele sexy
Sexy
scene.
vampires, yes. And that was this whole
hard.
movie.
That's what yes.
Oh, fuck,
yes.
man.
And so we can't watch it like you would have watched it. And I don't remember seeing it in 2000. I might have.
No, it was probably 2004 or 5 when I saw this.
So, yeah. So I feel like there's a whole lot of jaded stuff, and I'm so sarcastic, and I'll look at stuff and go, yeah. And all I can think about is The Simpsons, The Shining, and Key and Peele, and
no, it's legit.
Yeah.
But what is your take on Gerard? You seem like you are not a total hater.
I think, okay, y'all, I will totally confess that I'm one of those people that will I'll watch bad movies. I love B movies, and I'll go, you made a thing. Congratulations to you for making a thing and finishing it and getting it up there. Yeah. And so maybe I was feeling a little like this, and I was feeling sorry for Gerard being this, because I do think he's a very talented actor, and I feel like this was the vibe of this whole thing, whereas they thought they were directing a music video, and they wanted him crawling all over chiffon and sweating and beckoning. And he, and I feel like he had to do that, and he did it. And I feel like his acting, like you said, came out in the end where he was having to really, conjure up that stuff about being Judas. And so, but there is something, okay, this is a tangent, but it actually relates to this that I don't think I misunderstood because I had the captioning on. When she says to him, today the rope did not break. And I thought, well, the rope didn't break before.
They had a shot.
Did I miss something?
Okay, so they had a shot of it breaking.
I think it snapped, I think.
And then that's when he becomes the vampire.
Right, like the idea being that God will not let him die in that moment when he attempts suicide. Like he's been a vampire since he was like, I'm outie.
Got it. Okay. I know there was probably one iteration where I got that when I was watching. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, what a cheesy line. Like, he's had this big thing about, like, okay, I'm the guy who betrayed Jesus. But that all was feeling so weird and incestuous. The whole, like, the white chiffon, now we're having, I'm going to tell you stuff, is this heavenly sex, and now suddenly she's alone and it's all red chiffon, and is that confusing. Blood? Yeah. So is that heaven and this is hell, and are you hitting me over the head with it, or did you just get a goodbye on extra chiffon?
Definitely a goodbye.
But okay, so I think because I think Gerard actor. That's what I call him. Gerard actor.
No, that's
away with your last name. Yeah. I'm gonna call you Gerard actor.
I love that so much.
But I think he's a very talented actor, and this was a very weird vehicle. And then I thought he brought it in some of those last scenes where they really are talking about Jesus and betrayal and all that. But the rest of it, to me, I felt like he was a victim of editing, too.
That's the legit take.
Like, they're just going, just smile. I blame the director more than I blame him, I guess I should say it that way.
Yeah, I accept that, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
And, like, I think a lot of the actors in this were mis-edited, misdirected, or miscast. Like,
Mary Mina, that was just the most bizarre casting. Weird. And then so like, if there's not chemistry, like, if they cast him last minute, like, if they'd cast, you probably should have cast Dracula first.
Yes.
And then picked the women after that.
And they so clearly did not. Some, like, very brief other acting things to touch on is that I loved Omar Epps in this as Marcus.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I loved his red eyes, too.
It was
red eyes were cool.
He really kind of brought the camp. Who I did not love was Jennifer Esposito as Selena. I found her unbearable. I don't know if I'm just being awful.
No, it was awful.
Was that bad to you, Will?
It was very bad.
It was very bad.
Man, I don't really have a good explanation of why either. It just felt bad, dude. Feels bad, man. I got no explanation, but you watch 2 scenes with her in it and you'll be like, oh fuck, she sucks.
She was in too many scenes.
She was. They relied on her very heavily.
Yeah, and I thought the bride stuff, I love the brides in, like, the original Dracula, like that creepy, and I love I think the brides in Bram Stoker's Dracula are just amazing. And speaking of which, Monica Bellucci is in the
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Love her.
And but so I like the brides to be a thing.
Right.
Like, I'm not one of those people who's going, away with the brides. I just want to look at Dracula. You know, I love the
like
brides.
that. Yeah.
And I felt like they were, I don't know. I wasn't happy about the brides. And yeah, she was not good.
She's not good, dude.
Okay, another thing about Gerard in this,
Yes.
I felt like the teeth were a hindrance.
No, Will and I spent a lot of time talking about fangs. These were really low tier fangs, IMO.
Yeah, low tier fangs.
Yes.
Yeah, it seemed like they were. I like the way they tried to like illustrate like the fangs like coming out of someone's mouth, like digital, like using the digital effects.
Oh,
to have,
Omar
like,
had a good transformation with the fangs. That was
that
good.
was
cool.
That was cool, but like the actual like practical fang work was not wonderful.
And like that kind of leads into something else that's like an issue with this movie is that, Will, you talked a little bit about in your notes is that by naming something X2000, you date it immediately.
Yes.
And like it's hard to not date a movie, right? Like,
yeah,
everything is going to be a relic of its time. I think that even now we look on like rom-coms from like the mid 2000s as dated, you know?
Oh yeah.
There's kind of two different parts of this that I kind of want to touch on. I thought that the practical stuff in this was actually pretty good. The blood was fun. Like there was a lot of it. It was really goopy.
Yeah, a lot of good goopy, syrupy blood.
Yeah, it's fun. The prop that they used for his like very emaciated self at the top in the coffin
with the leeches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that was a good prop.
That was a good.
Oh
prop.
yeah.
But what dates this immensely is the heavy use of poor CGI.
Yeah.
And I think we even look at Marvel movies from a decade ago and say that those are dated by the use of heavy CGI. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a couple of moments that like actually made me laugh out loud. But I, you know, as you said, pro fog, I was happy that we got a fog Dracula, a bat Dracula, and a wolf Dracula in this. We got all three forms. The dry ice budget for this film must have been immense.
Through the roof.
Through the roof, dude. But yeah, the kind of general visual design of this is immediately clockable as late 90s, early 2000s, which is fine. We were just talking about how I like that kind of movie. But you are by no means making a lasting product when the first thing you come up with is the title Dracula 2000 and everything else falls into place in an extremely rushed and haphazard fashion.
I will say one thing that did really bother me is the lighting in this movie.
I was just thinking that, yes.
Like, especially there's a scene when they're in this, they get to a church and they're in this very, like, almost suspiciously well-stocked church library. And it is so brightly lit, it just looks like any church rec room you've ever seen in your life. There is no atmosphere, there's no ambience to it, and I feel like that was throughout a lot of the movie. It really crystallized an issue I was having, is that it had this very bright, very even lighting that I think existed to accentuate how attractive everyone was, but is not good for building atmosphere.
No, not at all.
Truth.
Very good point.
I was thinking exactly that and about the lighting, and I was thinking earlier how disappointing that the makeshift morgue is. You know, when Van Helsing first comes in to look at the bodies in their body bags.
Yes.
And it looks like just a place where people do bingo.
Yes.
You know,
it's bingo for sure.
It's a bingo room, and then it's a humongous room. It was just such a wasted space. It was like, it doesn't even make sense.
No.
And I just felt like it would have, even if you wanted this to be comedic, it would have even helped the comedy for those things to be creepier, you know, heighten the creep and heighten the comedy,
yes.
Yes. That was just one of the weirdest things. I thought, is he in a fellowship hall?
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah.
With the body bags. It wasn't creepy weird at all. And the lighting, exactly what you're saying. I mean, because I felt that was lit like a basketball game.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And that as both of you said, that just ruins the atmosphere completely. It doesn't look like New Orleans. It doesn't look like London. It doesn't look like a horror movie. It looks like an 80s music video, and now I can't stop thinking about that, and I need somebody to recut it over something. So before we kind of get into like bits and pieces, kind of like random stuff, something that Will always does, which I appreciate, is he looks at some contemporary reviews and kind of critical reception. And I have a feeling that I know where this is going to go, but Will, could you tell us a little bit about how this was received at the time?
Absolutely. It was, as you might imagine, not very well received. But I will say it wasn't out and out panned by as many outlets as I thought it would be. A lot of it seems to be actually falling right where we are, where people saying, where a lot of the criticism was, it was fine, there's interesting lore, but there's not anything really new being brought to the table. It's like a lot of other vampire movies that have come before it. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not delivering something that is new and novel.
Yeah, that kind of tracks. Has there been a lot of kind of previously panned films do get a cult following? Do we think that this has this, or was this kind of like lost to time a little bit?
Well, that is sort of what I was saying with it being in this like weird badness valley, is that I don't know if it has if it is just bad enough to have gotten that kind of following, or have that kind of have the people who are really hardcore into it. The one way I could see this happening, and I did write down my notes, is that it felt like a very basic cable movie.
Yeah.
It feels like the kind of movie that you could have gotten really into because it would play on TNT in an edited version around the clock or something.
Yeah, no, that tracks completely.
But I can't, as far as I can tell, I think it got I think it got one of those a high-end Blu-ray release, but I don't know if there's I don't know if this has the audience that a lot of the other 90s horror action movies do.
Well, I would be glad to try to help make this a cult classic film.
Yes.
But I was thinking about that, Anaconda. Anaconda is one of those B movies I love so much. And I feel like I helped make it one of those movies that people go to.
You should.
I've been around that long. No, but I was thinking about that, there are things I do. The thing that I do really like about this is the lore at the end. Like you said, but unfortunately that's just the last 10 minutes.
Minuscule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man.
But that's interesting to hear you say that's not everybody panned it, because I just thought it was one of those movies that probably all the reviewers hated. Yeah.
It seemed, mostly people seemed, there was, I think, one or two outlets that I saw that seemed like they just detested it and what they thought it did to the legacy of Dracula movies. But for the most part, everyone was at best kind of indifferent or ambivalent towards it.
Interesting. That kind of tracks with how we've been talking about it. Kind of before we get into our ending bits here, because what we do is we tend to put the Dracula on a list of where we think he stands amongst other Draculas, and then we pick a favorite of each other's notes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll pull those up for you to be able to see. But before that, does anybody have anything that they some kind of random bits and pieces that we can't fit anywhere else?
I got some real quick ones. I always like when you get very stray references to either old movies or to books or to the book. And you got their Van Helsing's company is called Carfax Holdings.
Yeah,
that's always so nice. There is, the Van Helsing has a stake gun that shoots little silver stakes. But then when there's a fight scene and not Chris O'Donnell pulls a weapon out of the back, and it's a kukri knife, which is the knife that Harker uses at the end of the book, and I thought that was a nice little reference.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good Easter egg. Yeah, that's good.
Very good.
We like that. Mine were two notes based on the production, and more shitting on it. Sorry. I thought the stunts in this movie were like fucking terrible.
I thought they looked like had bad knees.
Yes, everybody looks really weird and floaty, and then the wire work I know is probably like, I'm not gonna like narc on silly wire work from this era because like it's what brought us the Matrix, but everybody is moving so quickly and going so far in so many different directions. And then the up close shots, as you said, everybody looks like they have bad knees and they don't know how to fight. And then they go to these like crazy backflips and shit. I'm like, this just looks silly to me and not good silly. And then my second last note that I couldn't fit anywhere else is that the Foley in this movie was absolute dog shit. Like you would hear a shot and it would be like kathork. Like it was cartoonishly bad. Kaboom, exactly. And then, you know, kind of piggybacking off what Will said, the in terms of like little references, I did think it was funny that we had a singular scene with Dr. Seward with Seward in the middle of this movie where he's in the psych ward where Sonia is, that they just like named random Dr. Seward.
Yes.
Did you have anything that you wanted to like kind of touch on, Teresa?
Let me see. There were just a couple of things I noticed props wise. Like I wanted to get a longer look at the crest on his ring.
Yes,
that they showed several times, and usually that's a dragon, and I didn't see a dragon, but
definitely
maybe I'll have to freeze frame another time. I thought it was interesting that he had the red passport because that's usually for badass, important people that have a red passport.
Oh yeah, it's like a diplomat passport.
Yeah. Well, I only know this because this friend of mine dated somebody, and this guy that she dated. She said he knew what the limit for cash to pack was, and he had 3 passports, and 2 of them were red, and I was like, girl.
Scary, okay.
You know, anyway, so I'm like, oh, a red passport, so that means something. So I kind of felt like they were setting him up for some stuff, and then, oops, he's under the bed dead, and that's all, that was one that was shocking. I loved the spring-loaded leech on the eye. That was one of my favorite things.
So good.
Let me see. I'm still mad about I boycotted your ordination and how that went nowhere.
Yeah, that's very valid.
And you know, I did see this note in Will's also that the Max von Sydow moment where he's standing under the light with a little valise, you know.
Yep, that was good.
There was a lot of splaining. There was a lot of, let's just talk about this. And then at the end when she's reading the diary and they're trying to set it up like she's going to, I'm like, oh, hell to the no.
And that's a script issue is that like the pacing of this was shot right in the ass. Like there is a half an hour where we don't see Dracula. A half an hour of an hour and 40-minute movie.
There was. You're right.
The whole opening section takes fucking forever. And
I did like the footprints coming off the Demeter, the footprints in the sand that transformed from wolf footprints into human footprints.
That's a really good.
I thought that was
really good detail that I don't think anybody but you on planet Earth would notice.
I loved that. And then, another thing I thought was really funny. I'm just looking at my notes, y'all. The Bible where Johnny Lee Simon picks up a Bible and just like violently opens it and it shoots out like projectile pages.
That was incredible.
Lands on Dracula and they burn. And I was like, that's awesome. I loved that. Let me see. Dracula's Lament. I have been chosen to suffer like no man before. And I thought, you're standing under a cross, so we beg to differ.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Truth.
And then I really did like, I thought some of the comedy that Johnny Lee was doing with the props, and I thought those are very, very good gardening shears that they could lop off a head.
Yes.
I thought, well, those are really good. Those are
sharp as hell.
Fine garden shears. And yeah, I guess I just felt like I had watched a video with a lot of people I didn't like, and the character that I liked, the two or three characters I liked, one of them ended up dead under a bed, and we didn't see how that happened.
Yep.
One of them had to beckon too much. And one of them had a crush on this girl we don't want to see in the next movie.
Yeah, that kind of sums it up, don't it?
I don't mean to be cruel to all the people.
No,
you made a thing.
Like,
you made a thing.
Where do we put this Dracula? in terms of the grand ranking?
Oh, no.
Oh, Will. This is
I don't
tough.
It's tough.
I don't want to be unkind to our Draculas, but
No,
I feel like he's towards the bottom here. He's not Turkish Dracula just punching guys in a theater, but
Forgot about Turkish Dracula. I was gonna put him at the top of the bottom third.
okay.
That's good.
Like, we've seen some really, really dog shit Draculas. And this is by no means a good Dracula.
Okay, where does this stand in comparison to Louis Jourdan?
Above Louis Jourdan.
Above Louis
yeah.
Jourdan.
Yeah, no, fuck Louis Jourdan. That shit,
Oh my god, I didn't even
that
think
shit
about
sucks
it.
so hard. You're Louis Jourdan
Above Louis
haters,
Jourdan.
okay? Haters.
I know. I listened
tell
to that.
you.
That was so funny to me. I'm like, man, they hated
We
Louis
fucking
Jourdan.
hate him.
I did like in that one the way he climbs up the wall. Like
No,
that
that's
was one of
cool.
the first times I had seen that.
They did a good job with that.
And I only
specifically.
watched it because my husband told me to watch it because he said, okay, there's a really creepy, because I had mentioned,
Yeah.
one thing Dracula does that nobody ever shows.
It's
and
the wall
it
crawl.
bothers me is the wall crawl.
Oh yeah.
And there's only a couple movies that do that.
It's true. Okay, and then what we do usually is we pick one note, like a single line from each other's notes, to read out loud. So I will let Will go first, if that's all right. Will, do you have both mine and Teresa's notes?
I do, yes. Colleen, yours is... I like that historically we caught Dracula as a team effort. Like a barn raising. Community!
Because they have a flashback where they show him catching him in a cage, and it takes like 5 people to do it. And I literally just thought the words barn raising. And I was like, oh, I gotta write that down. Oh.
And then, Teresa, line for you is airplane scene. Why is the coffin not strapped in? The obedient passenger in me wonders.
I was bothered.
Yes, you should be. You should be bothered. Okay, and then, excuse me. My notes for you guys. Will, my note I choose for you is, quote, when you can hide it in a coffin, said like this is the most logical train of thought of all time. I love that.
It's so funny because there's like, first of all, it is Omar Epps, the character says like, because they're down in Van Helsing's vault, and he's like, nah, but why would you hide gold in a vault? And then just when you can hide it in a coffin, like this is, she just cracked the code.
So good.
Amazing.
And then Teresa, my note for you is Van Helsing's diary says he has a, quote, cursed addiction. So this is a very 7% solution feeling. And I love that. I feel like that's going to be the hit of the summer, 7% solution feeling. That is that
Yes.
espresso, you know what I mean? That is so fucking funny to me. And then you are welcome to pick one of mine and Will's if you so desire, but no pressure. Yeah.
Yes, okay, Will's the Orlok skull. I loved that too.
Yeah.
Orlok skull. I love the skull. And were you upset when he dashed when Omar dashed one of them to the ground?
I was
That really
so
upset
sad.
me. It really bothered me.
That's some bullshit.
And I thought, don't mess with the antique dealers.
Exactly.
And then on yours, Colleen, I was looking. Well, who the fuck is Dracula? Yeah, you spelled it in like 3 words. It was like Dracula. Yeah.
Who though? And then like shout out to all of us for being like, is that fucking Nathan Fillion?
Well, I know we all 3 had that in our notes. That's so funny.
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan, what's he doing? And it was a disappointing non-end for him because he just sort of fades away, and you're like, oh, so there's this priest around the corner that she apparently even goes to about her dreams, but that's all he's
it?
like, that's it.
That's it.
He's not going to help in this situation
God.
where crosses are called for. He's not.
No, he's of no
there's
use.
no
Great.
logic.
Apparently, as you said, Will, I did a little like clicking around because he said that he was running for reshoots. He filmed all of those on one day, and it was Halloween.
Oh, wow.
Fun. Can you imagine being young Nathan Fillion and being
gosh.
like, I just got the weirdest callback of all
The
time?
weirdest, yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, y'all, that's Dracula 2000.
Yay! I'm so glad we did it.
Me too. Thank
We
you
did
so
it.
much for coming on. You're so fun to talk to.
Oh yeah,
Please come
y'all
back
are amazing.
anytime.
Yeah.
I love all this so much, and I have so many opinions about so many movies.
As you should. But it was a pleasure to have you. We will link all of your shit in various captions, but I believe your Instagram is at Laughing Redhead.
Yes, all my stuff, my site is laughingredhead.com. All my social is at Laughing Redhead.
Cool.
So,
and will there be any clips of the most recent show that you opened for available?
You know what? Not yet. And I've actually got clips that we're going to be putting in there. I've got them kind of in the queue, and I haven't started putting them in yet. Cool. But I did not. Well, I did film. I filmed myself from the side. I videotaped myself from the side,
Perfect.
Which.
All right.
Yeah. Because, not to brag, but Teresa just opened for Trey Crowder at
Carnegie
Music Hall. So, giving you a little shout out there.
It was so fun.
Love
that audience was so amazing. From the get-go, from the word. Oh, it was awesome. It was so fun. And this was so fun and such an honor. And Will, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh my gosh, likewise. It's been a joy.
I'm going to text y'all pictures because I think I may have that middle school Dracula that you said had such scary. I think I may have that one.
That would be perfect.
I think because it's got purple. I'm gonna text y'all.
Please
do.
It to you. You have our numbers down. We can just talk about this shit constantly, which is what we love to do. We love talking. If you couldn't realize that. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.
Coolio.
Bye.